Well, another day, another recycling load. I got quite the pickup this time. I'm a little worried I paid too much for it, but we'll find out. What you're seeing here is $5,000 worth of servers. Well, my cost. What the final price will be, that's beyond me at this point. I got a ton of these Supermicro 4U storage servers that I'm not too thrilled about, mostly because they're just so big and heavy. And this is just a disk chassis, so that'll be kind of interesting. I don't know what to think about the density on these. Let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So those will hold 24 drives in the front. This one's a little bit different configuration than some of the others. Same with this one. Although, if this one plays nice, I'm kind of excited about it because it'll be a nice little GPU server. So, I gotta unload all this, but I haven't the slightest idea where it's going because I got all this crap in the way. But we'll see what happens here. Hopefully I can get most of it unloaded. Buried way back in the back of front of the van is a 3 Dell M1000e blade servers. And those might stay in the van for a bit because they're very heavy and I don't want to unload them. But I'm hoping to get most of this stuff out. We'll kind of see what happens here. Oh, well, I've been working on this for a short period of time now, not too much, and I barely made a dent. I have what is probably half of a 55-gallon barrel full of network cables. Nice little box of power cords, although there's some more stuff in there still. And a bunch of Dell power supplies. And this box of memory. And I thought this might make a good talking point because buying used memory is kind of tricky. So I don't know the story behind any of this stuff, and it might not even be good for all I know, especially some of the bigger sticks. Yeah, so these are 32 gig sticks of PC3 12800L, and a lot of these servers have 16 and 32 gig sticks of memory in them. But when buying it, my question is, well, why are these two sticks here? Were they pulls because they were bad? Were they spares? Like, there's plenty of space for them to populate more of these servers with memory. And then there's a lot of other stuff in there as well. Here's some 8 gig. My camera just doesn't like focusing on it. There we go. Just zoom in. 10600R. You know, this stuff's kind of worthless. I think right now this is worth like $4 or $5 a stick. I wouldn't even sell it loose if someone asked me because I make more money taking this and putting it in a system that I sell. So I kind of bought this, I guess you could say with the intent of scrap value and in the hopes that there's something good. So like this DDR4 memory here is probably good. 2 4 gig sticks. Not particularly useful, but the reason I believe this is good is because, let's see here. So this was previously a 16 gig kit of DDR4 in this packaging, it looks like. Well, 16 times 4. That's weird. Huh. Either way, odds are the memory that's in this packaging now is from an upgrade. Although I don't fully understand why now I'm looking at the packaging, because this would have had 4 gig sticks. And based on the way the memory looks, I'd be inclined to say this is memory that was pulled out of an Apple iMac, maybe. So maybe they just decided they're going to replace all the memory, but odds are that's good. This also isn't in its original packaging, I don't think, but so that's kind of interesting. Unfortunately, I have a long ways to go still. It's fun buying this stuff, but unloading the van is kind of like unwrapping an onion. Kind of sucks, but Then once you get to your end product, you know, it's like having a nice cooked meal. I guess, I don't know. Maybe it's a bad analogy. It's just the whole unloading process is always the worst part of the job. Figuring out where to put the stuff and organizing it. So much easier just to throw it in a pile. So, yeah, hopefully I'll have a little progress update here after I get a little further in. It's going to take me a while to figure out some of this stuff, unfortunately. Well, as you can see, I'm starting to get the server pile unloaded from the van. And got them piled on a pallet right now. And this is kind of one of the gems of the batch. And it doesn't look too exciting from the back, but I'll walk around to the front and check that out. 48 bays of 2.5 inch storage space. But what's even more exciting is under the cover. We'll see if I can pull this off one-handed without damaging it further than it is. You'll have to excuse the glare from my flashlight. It's too dark in here to record this otherwise. Look at this backplane though. What is this? It's odd. I don't know what that's about. Yeah, slots for days. And looks like it's probably 12. No, maybe it is actually 11. It's a weird number. But there's kind of a variety of 16x and 4x. And even older revisions. That's 2.0 only apparently. I'm not sure how that all works, how it's provisioned out. Looks like there's a handle here, so that must come out as an assembly. I haven't gotten to that point yet. There's the motherboard model. And this is running dual Xeons of some sort. I would assume it's socket 2011 of probably the V0 or V2 series. But I may be surprised. But to top it off, all these sticks are 32 gig DDR3. And I don't really, I think I'd pull one out. So it's, of course the phone don't want to focus. PC3L 12800L. Should be registered ECC. I forget what the L stands for though. I don't remember how much this came with. Let's see. 1, 2, 3. 24 times 32. Can I do that math in my head on a video? I believe that's 768 gigs of RAM in there. What I will do with this server, I have no idea yet. I just know it's going to be fun, and it's going to make for a good video. Especially since I have to figure out these power connectors. And it has them on both sides. So, depending on what the output of those are, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there's 10 altogether. In theory, you could run 10 cards in this then with the required power. Although they will be fairly heavily throttled on bandwidth depending on the slot, since some of these are slower than others. And this thing is loaded with quad power supplies. I don't remember what the wattage on them was. Looks like 1000 watts on 120 or 1600 watts on 240. So with redundancy, you're looking at 4800 watts of power supply power, assuming one of these is a redundant power supply for failure. Don't know what to do with this. Also, I'm kind of sad because I don't have rails for it. I have the inner rails, but not the outer. But if I had rails for this, I might put it in my server rack for the fun of it. It's kind of bent. But I don't know what the future for this is. Obviously, it's going to show up in a video. but I will have to do some work to make it work. Gotta figure out what the story is of this RAID controller here that's no longer intact. And that, ooh, we'll point the camera and focus in. That is a 40 gig network card. It's a shame I don't have modules for it. They probably use copper DACs though, I would guess. I do actually have a Cisco switch that would work with this, assuming I have the right modules and everything that I picked up, which was actually 2 of them all the way back there. So this will be interesting. This thing was loaded with, I think there were 1.8 terabyte 2.5-inch drives, and then it had a bunch of Intel and NVMe drives in these slots that are open right now. They were only 400 and 800 gigabyte drives though, which is slightly disappointing. But unfortunately the customer had to keep them as much as I would have liked to get them. Honestly, all these servers had some pretty fantastic drives. It was kind of painful watching him handle them though, because, oh man, watch the person I bought these from accidentally drop a 6 terabyte drive, and it's like, that's sad, considering none of my drives are bigger than 3. But, oh boy, hopefully I can get this fully unloaded here soon. There's still a few more interesting gems in there as well. Well, I made another dent in the van. I'd like to say I'm almost halfway done, but I got this dang M1000es to unload. But figured I'd pop the top of another one of these Supermicro servers, because they're not all the same. And this one's a little bit more exciting. So it does have an additional 12 bays of storage in the back for 3.5-inch drives, plus the 24 in the front, which is nice. But this thing's loaded with RAID controllers, and I think these are 12 gigabit SAS. Could be wrong. Also, this is probably 10 gig. Yeah, looks like it's 10 gig. Don't suppose. Ooh, it is Intel with modules. Card's gonna get sold. I might keep the modules, even though I already have 4. And these should all be 16 gig sticks. What? Whatever 18 times 16 is. Oh. Try and do the math in my head. I just need a calculator handy, I guess. These have a lot of RAM. I'm just gonna call it that. I don't feel like doing the math. I should know the numbers, but yeah, lazy. I don't think these boards are quite as exciting though. Based on the fact that these are going in sets of 3, I would guess these are socket 1366 motherboards. One weird quirk about these that I don't quite understand is, why do they have audio? Kind of weird to see audio on a server board. I believe, yeah, this is the same board. This board doesn't have audio, but I also think this board is a little newer and nicer. That's the GPU board or server I looked at previously earlier in the video. So yeah, the unloading process just kind of continues on. I still have a bunch of Dell servers to unload, and then the Blade servers. Those 2 gray things on top of the Dell Blade servers are Cisco Nexus switches that are capable of 10 and 40 gigabit. Also, I got this system, which is kind of neat. Well, here in this empty case, that's a Fantex brand case, fairly big, but that's weird. Just noticed this case doesn't have a see-through side panel. Probably paid a little too much for this. Paid $150 for it, but it's a 5th gen enthusiast grade Xeon. I believe it's 5850 or 5860, something like that. So fairly nice setup. Has NVMe, has SATA, and 64 gigabytes of DDR4. Also a nice little 750 watt power supply. I don't know what the fate of this is going to be quite yet. It's not going to ship well with that heatsink, whether I leave it in the case as is or I sell the motherboard as a combo. And if I take the heatsink off, then the customer is going to have their own thermal paste, and I have to trust them to mount the heatsink properly. Granted, I would have to trust them to mount the motherboard properly, so maybe that point's moot, but I don't know what the fate of this PC is going to be. I think it might actually be nicer than my current gaming PC I have that I never use, but yeah, that's the problem. I never use it, so not really much I could say. It would be tempting for an upcoming video to repurpose this motherboard, but unfortunately I do not have any cases that are high enough to support a heatsink like that. So yeah, I don't have any plans for this. Even the power supply, I mean, it's a nice power supply, but I just genuinely don't have a use for it. The only thing that would have been nice is if this would have come with a high-end video card, but it comes with just a really basic W4100. Nothing special. So I don't know what they were doing with this, if they need it for processing power more than GPU power, but yeah, that's interesting. So I gotta keep on unloading here. That pallet's getting kind of full, so I don't know where that stuff's going yet. There's two R510s in there, and then I think the rest of that's going to be scrap. Well, no, there's an R320 as well. So, yeah. Basically, I'm going to leave all that there, and I think everything is heavy enough to stop that ramp from going sideways. I'm not sure. I might tip that Cisco switch on his back just for its own safety so it doesn't flop over, because it's not very deep, and I think it's not going to go that way, but it definitely has a good chance of going backwards, if anything. And this van can't accelerate that aggressively, but I don't really think I want to take the chance, even though that's probably going to end up being scrap. The switch modules that are in it are worth like $35 a piece, but I don't know if it's worth taking the effort to sell them, so we'll see how that goes. Well, end of the line for the project tonight. A couple servers here still, and then I got all these M1000e servers to deal with. Problem is, I'm going to pull all the blades out and then unload them. I'll probably use a forklift and a pallet. Huh, that's not a good sign. I don't know what that's about, but oh boy, yeah, I'll be glad when I'm done with this project. I don't know the fate of these yet. I mean, my intent of buying them is basically to scrap them and then sell some of the better blades, but they're a weird combination of 11th, 12th, and 13th gen blades. So there's some M710 HDs, some M620s, some M630s. There's a full-length M820 blade, and there's some interesting network cards in the back, basically. So we'll see how that goes. There should be a video eventually of me playing with one of these, but I don't really know how that's going to play out quite yet, because I've never worked on one before, and I don't know how big of a nightmare they're going to be to set up. But it would be nice to get them set up so I can test the blades that are worth selling and see what we do from there. So that's basically the end of the video. Nothing else to see, so thanks for watching.